Hey everybody, it's paranormal time, and today we're going to be talking about shadow people, shadow beings, whatever the case may be, whatever you wish to call them. Now, I've done a little bit of extended research before the show just to freshen up, see if there's anything new, because shadow beings, shadow people aren't really something new to me. I've been aware of their existence for a while and actually have seen one, and my friend has caught one on camera. I've talked about both events before just for the sake of the video, and in case people that are watching now haven't heard the stories, I will get into those a little bit later. But basically what a shadow person is this just kind of like what it sounds like it is. It's not a ghost. At least I don't think so, and most people would agree that they are not the same things as whatever ghost apparitions are. I have a different outlook on what ghosts are for the most part that kind of contradict like the general interpretation of what a ghost is. My freaking thing is flickering like crazy. I'm gonna need to figure out how to fix that. And it's doing it again. Maybe if I don't move. Anyway, so shadow people are essentially just very dark masses in the shape of a person. The two most common ones, the ones that I'm most familiar with, are the Hat Man and the cloaked figures. Now, the Hat Man tends to have more, I don't know if it'd be like menacing. I don't really know. It depends on who you ask. Like, I just listened to a kind of like interview, however you want to put it, about shadow people of this one person. Her name was Haiti, and I'll put the interview below in case you want to listen to it. I did find it interesting. I don't know that I completely agree with everything that she said. I think she's a little bit, I don't know. I don't want to judge, but just say that her views and ideas about things are a little different than mine, but it's still interesting nonetheless. But in her interpretation and in her experience, the Hat Man tends to be more negative and tends to follow the person more than the cloaked beings. Now there are, and I don't know why this wasn't brought up during the interview, but there are, I guess, a third group that really don't follow under or fall under either the Hat Man or the hooded figure, and that's just like a shadow person. Like, it looks like an outline of a person. It doesn't appear that they're wearing anything special. It's just like an outline of a person, and it's very dark. Now, and I've seen both like a ghost apparition and a shadow being, and I can tell you, at least from personal experience, there's a definite distinction between the two. When you're looking at an apparition, and just briefly, not going into detail about it because that would be a whole nother conversation, I personally believe, at least in my experiences, that the ghosts or apparitions, whatever you want to call it, that I have seen are not intelligent, and they're not the actual spirits of people. For the most part, there was one or two that may have been, but that's only because of the circumstances that happened around it and things that I had come to find out later after the event. But in general, I think most of the things that I had seen are just kind of like echoes in time, or seeing into a different point in time, because they weren't interactive with me. They didn't seem to have any kind of intelligence. It was like there. I was just like I was watching just someone being there. It wasn't anything where I picked up on any energies from it, outside of, like I said, the one or two instances. So when you see an apparition, if you see a ghost, generally they look just like a regular person, except they're see-through. You can see through them. There's really no mask to them. There's been a couple of occurrences that people have talked about where they've actually mistaken a full-bodied apparition for an actual person, where they seem to be a little bit more solid, but there's still distinctiveness between their features. Whereas a shadow person is just a black mass. It's almost like dark energy. Like, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of dark energy or negative energy, or not negative energy, dark matter, kind of like a black hole type of thing. I don't know, but it's like the outline of the being is very, very dark. You can't see through it. There's mass to it. It's just like blacker than black. And I've only seen one like head on once. And like I said, I'll get into that. Why? I swear my dogs only freak out like this when I'm filming. That's super fucking annoying. Anyway, I'll get into my experiences later on, but I forgot where the hell I was talking about. Fuck. So I like completely lost train of thought. Anyway, I guess I'll just start talking about something else because I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. But basically, as far as what the shadow beings are, there's a lot of speculation as to exactly what they are. Oh, I was talking about how they are blacker than black. It's really unnerving when you see them, and a lot of people have the same. They either feel a negative presence or energy, or kind of like a neutral, where they're not really giving off any kind of vibe either way, but it's still unnerving because there's something that you can't explain that's there and it's watching you. And that's another thing of why I thought that the one interview was odd, is that her perception of what a shadow being is, and what, because like I guess she's done her own research, but like the findings that she has come across and the findings that I have over time seem to differ. Whereas most of the shadow being things that I've read, now YouTube is another thing, because I feel like everything on YouTube is dramatized for like views, which is something you really have to watch. And it's kind of like similar to television, where they try to make things a little bit more dramatic than they really are to attract attention. So that's why YouTube's a little bit to me. Where you'll get a really good amount of information is either through podcasts or forums, which involves reading, which I'm not a huge fan of for the most part, but when it's something I'm really interested in, I will read, and I do a lot of reading on paranormal topics. But just like a disclaimer or advice, you know, you can listen to YouTube and like stuff like Coast to Coast, like mostly older Coast to Coast. I haven't really listened to a lot of the newer stuff, but like certain Coast to Coast episodes can be very entertaining and educational. Again, you still have to kind of watch. There's still like agendas and everything. I've mentioned Paratopia a lot, many, many times. That's a good one. What is the one? Dreamland, I think it's called, which I believe is by either Art Bell or Whitley Strieber. I know Whitley Strieber has one as well, or he did at one point, and his is decent. Fade to Black is another good one. But anyway, getting off topic. So how my opinion or view on shadow people seems to differ from this lady's opinion, this Heidi lady, is that she has gotten data that indicates that these shadow beings overall give a negative vibe out, which from what I've read, while yes, some of them do have like a negative reaction, like you'll have a negative reaction to the being, or it'll give off like a negative vibe, most of them seem to be kind of neutral, where they're just kind of watching you and they're not really giving off an emotion or anything either way. It's more so your reaction to the being. So that's how it kind of differs. And even the one that I had seen, the one my friend got on camera is a different story, but the one I saw face to face, I didn't get a negative vibe from it. It just was off-putting because of the situation and the fact that, and like I said, I'll get into it later, but I didn't get a negative vibe off of it. And most people, and I think where her views are differing than mine, I think it's mostly due to the fact that I think she's confusing, and it could just be me, but in my opinion, it seems like she's confusing demonic energy and shadow people, which I don't think are the same thing. because she also talks about sleep paralysis and like the old hag syndrome, where you feel like something's basically laying in your chest and choking you, and like shadow beings attacking people, which is not really something that I've heard of a whole lot. And again, a lot of the instances where people have called something a shadow person and it attacked them, I really think that they're dealing with something different, something like a dark energy. I don't necessarily believe in demons, but I do believe in negative energy. I think that's pretty evident that negative energy exists. But I don't know. Her view on it is odd, but it's different. So I find it interesting, even though I don't agree with it. I did listen to another interview. This was by a guy, I think he called himself Thunder something. I don't remember. I think he has Native American heritage to him, which is why he has this nickname of Thunder, whatever it was. I forget what it was called. It wasn't like Thunderstorm or anything, but it had like a second part to it that I can't remember. But they just kept calling him Thunder. So that's how I remember him. But it was an interview with Art Bell, which is older because, you know, Art Bell, as far as I know, doesn't do, you know, the whole interview or podcast or anything like that anymore. I think he stepped away from the business for, I don't know, kind of like a weird contradictory reason. Like, I don't know. Anyway, the interview was interesting. I more so agree with his view of things compared to the other ladies, but nonetheless, he talks about these shadow beings, and he thinks that they're created in his culture, at least the part of, you know, the tribe that he's from. They believe that these creatures were created by us, our negative energy, and they were not around, you know, from the beginning of time. They actually came into existence, and I think he said approximately like maybe 2,000 years ago, something before Christ, but not super like dated. I don't know. I don't remember the exact time period, but he said there was like a specific time where these beings started to kind of emerge. And he also said that because there does seem to be an influx of, or increase of, these weird paranormal encounters, not just, you know, from aliens, you know, extraterrestrial encounters seem to have increased quite a bit. But it's hard for me, at least, to differentiate whether or not it's just that we have a lot more communication now than we ever have. Like, you can communicate with somebody through like many different types of ways. You know, you can do it on YouTube, you can do it, you know, texting, calling, emailing. I mean, there's so many different ways to get a message across, which is good and bad. And I don't know if that's why, or if the activity actually has increased. To me, it's hard to decide. And then also, you have to deal with the fact that people sometimes make stuff up. So I don't know. But according to a lot of people, the activity does seem to have increased over the last, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 years. And supposedly it's because of something called the quickening. And this is something that I've heard about before. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about it. That's something that I probably will do a future episode about. But it's basically, I guess, supposedly our culture, or not culture, but our species goes into these ebb and flow of evolution, where like we kind of have a golden age where we're like at a heightened point. And I don't want to like to call it a heightened point, because obviously like at this specific time there's a lot of negative things that are happening, but it's like we're reaching a peak of some sort, not necessarily good, but a peak of, I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot of it, but they call it the quickening, and it's supposed to kind of explain why there's a sudden increase in the paranormal activity area. Again, I'll do like an episode of it, you know, soon, maybe next, I don't know. Anyway, and according to the same gentleman that was talking about the quickening and all that, he said that supposedly we have 10 sets of eyes. Now, I think maybe something's lost in translation, or maybe they just refer to it as something different. But to me, it was more of like a receptive, like we have 10 different ways to perceive things. And because he mentioned the palms, the soles of the feet, to me, they are almost like chakras that he was describing, at least to me. That's what it kind of reminded me of, is like different chakras. And these beings are perceived not by your physical eyes, but like more of like a spiritual or mental or whatever you want to call it type of eye, which does make sense. And it would make sense as to why certain people seem to be able to see these things and then other people never see anything, because a lot of the instances where, you know, I've lived somewhere that was haunted, I'd really be the only one experiencing things. And it's odd, and it's hard to prove something that you can't really show to other people. And I think that's why the paranormal is just such a polarizing thing, is because if you've never experienced something, it kind of makes sense as to why you wouldn't want to believe in it. Or if there's no tangible proof of something, then it's hard to, you know, give it the time of day. Me, I've always had stuff happen to me, like as far back as I can remember. It increased dramatically around 10 years old, but I've always had like weird stuff, like as far back as I can remember. And I don't know whether it was a precursor to it, whether it drew me to it, or whether my fixation was created because of it. I don't know, but I've always been interested in this kind of stuff too. So I don't know. Anyway, but the whole mind's eye type thing kind of does make sense. They also, and this is something I have heard before, and there might be merit to it, that these shadow beings are either created by, are drawn to, and or feed off of negative energy. It doesn't mean necessarily that they're negative, but it's just, it does seem to be that they show up in places where there's a lot of negative energy. And even in the instance where I saw what I saw, and then my friend caught on camera what she caught on camera, both places had a lot of negative energy and high stress at the time that they were seen. So that, at least in my experience, does seem to be true. I may have also seen the Hat Man, but my description is a little bit different than most people, so I don't know that I would necessarily, it might not be the same thing. What I saw could have been a ghost, because it did have more of like facial features. It was more see-through. It wasn't like a dark mass, but he did have a hat. But he looked more of like an Abe Lincoln type thing than like the stereotypical Hat Man, which has like either a fedora, sometimes he has a top hat. Why he seems to change hats, I don't know. Some people say he has a cape, but most of the time he's just like in a suit and has like some kind of hat of some sort. And there's speculation as to whether or not him and the hooded creatures and just the regular shadow people are related in some way. They do tend to have different connotations to them and show up in different times. I don't know. I have only definitely seen the hooded one, and then the one that my friend caught on camera was just like an outline of a person. But I don't know. The guy that I was listening to, he also stated that these beings can influence or interact with your dreams. He started to say something really interesting, and I'm kind of mad because it was either the interviewer or a person that was calling in to ask a question. They cut him off when he was talking about it. But like, he was talking about how in a dream state, and my dreams are really weird, but he said if you're in a dream state and it's like you're watching yourself, like almost like on a movie, kind of almost third person. And he started to say that you really want to be careful about that because, and then the freaking person cut him off. And I don't know whether he was saying, because he was going kind of like alluding to the fact that these shadow beings can manipulate your dreams in a way that benefits them. I don't know how, because again, he got cut off, but it really pissed me off because I have a lot of dreams where I'm kind of watching myself. I'm sometimes in control, more times than others, but I have a lot of dreams that are in third person. Like I'm actually watching, and it's not always me. Sometimes I'm other people, which is really weird, but I kind of wanted to see where he was going with that to see if it was anything significant, but guess we'll never know. Oh, and the cloaked beings, the ones with the cloak. Now, the cloaked beings, they didn't really get into describing them. The one common feature of all of them is they're all very dark masses. They're very black masses. Like, you really can't differentiate features of them really at all. Sometimes you can see the eyes. That's about it. But as far as like, seeing a face compared to like hands or anything like that, it's pretty much just almost all blended into each other in like a shape of a humanoid. The cloaked beings, they just look like a person with a cloak on. It's pretty much all it is. And sometimes you can really differentiate the cloak from the rest of it, but it's still all just really black. And then most times that people see the hooded creatures, they have red eyes, which I thought really interesting. And that's why I feel like my experience with the hooded figure that I saw was kind of unique, is that I've only heard of one or two other people in all the years that I've been reading up on this stuff that I've ever come across one with yellow eyes. So the one I saw had yellow eyes. And since I keep bringing it up, I figure I might as well just get into the experience in case people haven't heard the story before. Basically, short of the long was, I was about 13 years old. It was summer vacation. I was at my aunt's house. I spent the night for the first time ever because I wasn't super close with my aunt until she got divorced, because when she was married, I don't know, it was kind of like a controlling situation. So she really, I don't know, we just weren't close before her divorce. And then she kind of just started doing things on her own and I don't know, whatever. So we hung out like the whole day, and then I spent the night, and then my grandma was going to pick me up the next morning. Well, everything was fine. It was a great time. I had an awesome time, and I got to see my older cousin, which my older cousin was awesome. So it was just an overall good time. So I wasn't really expecting anything to happen. I never really particularly liked that house. It was a really nice house, but I just always got like a weird vibe from it, and I don't know why. And I just kind of brushed it off because around that time, I had started experiencing things pretty much from like 10 on was when the activity increased, and just kept getting worse and worse. But at that point, I was kind of used to just getting odd vibes from places. So I kind of just didn't really think too much of it because they've never said anything about, well, I don't know why they would say anything to me being 13 years old, but I don't know. I just kind of tried to ignore it. I figured it was just because I wasn't used to being there, because prior to me spending the night there, I'd only been there like maybe once or twice, and it was for like Christmas, like where the whole house was full of people. So it was just odd because it was just her, my cousin, and me. So the house was relatively empty compared to the way it usually would be when I would be over there. But anyway, I stayed in the spare room, which I think used to be my other cousin's old room, which was then turned into, it was kind of like a computer room that for whatever reason there was like a bed in there. I don't really know. So everything was fine. I had trouble sleeping, but I have trouble sleeping pretty much no matter where I am, especially if I'm not at home. It's even worse. So I woke up randomly really early in the morning for no reason, and I noticed something in the light fixture. She had like this glass dome light fixture on the ceiling, and I was coming out of sleep, so I was kind of just out of it, and I'm just like looking up and like, why am I up so freaking early? Because I could tell it was early because I could hear my aunt getting ready for work, and she, went to work pretty early. So I'm like, why am I awake this freaking early? So I'm kind of like just laying there debating on whether or not I want to get up or not. And I happened to glance up at the light fixture. I don't know why. I don't know what drew me to the light fixture. Besides that, maybe it was just happened to be in view. I don't know. But I noticed something in it. So I'm like staring at it. And at first I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just, you know, I'm still half asleep. I don't know. So I kept staring. And I saw like this humanoid figure. And at the time, it didn't really dawn on me what it was. It just kind of looked like a blob to me. But it had a definition of a head, shoulders, and then it kind of got cut off because, you know, I saw it in the reflection of the glass on the light fixture. So you can only see so much within like a reflective surface because it gets cut off or whatever. So I'm like looking at it and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So I'm like looking around the room, and my aunt was like a clean freak. So it wasn't just like random stuff like in the room, and it was a pretty open space between me and like light fixture. So it wasn't a lot of things in the reflection that it could be. So I'm like moving stuff around, trying to figure out what the fuck this thing is. And where I got to where it was, like where my hand disappeared, there was literally nothing there. And once I noticed that, and I had thought it looked like it had eyes, just like kind of like, not completely slanted eyes, but like kind of like almond shaped kind of ish. I don't know, but like thinner than and more slanted than like a human eye would be, and they were yellow. And I thought maybe it was like a reflection of something. I don't know. There wasn't really any light in the room to be reflected off of, but I was just trying to make rational sense of what I was seeing. So when I noticed that, when I put my hand there and it disappeared and there was nothing actually there where I was putting my hand, I bolted. And my aunt noticed that I was kind of acting strangely, but I didn't tell her because it's like, I'm 13 years old. My aunt is not going to believe that there's like this thing in the room, and I didn't know her all that well, so I didn't want her to think I was super weird, which it turns out she probably thought that way anyway, because something even creepier happened that I found out years later. But yeah, so that was that. And I'd asked my cousin, like I said, many, many years later, because like I said, I was 13. And when I asked my cousin who used to live in that house, in that room, if she had ever seen anything, it was only like maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3, but relatively recently. And she's like, no, I've never seen anything. Why? And I told her like what happened. And basically the kind of, I know I keep saying like make a long story short, but I don't think I'm capable of such things. But anyway, her mom told her, which is my aunt, that I was standing by her bed in the middle of the night staring at her. And I don't obviously remember that. And I think that's really fucking weird. And I've never done that to like anybody, let alone that. And it happened right before the morning of when I saw this thing. So that to me makes it even worse. Cause like, I don't know, with a lot of my experiences, I try to rationalize them to make myself feel better about what happened. But sometimes you get to the point where there's really just no logical explanation of what happened. And then hearing that coincided with what I saw, I don't know, it just makes it fucking weirder to me. Now, as far as my friend and what she caught on camera, hers was actually worse, because the thing that I saw at my aunt's house, I didn't get a vibe of anyway. Like it was just there, like it was just watching me. I did feel like I was being watched, like it was observing me, but I didn't get like a negative vibe off of it. It just was there. And it was unsettling to me because I knew it shouldn't be there. And then I knew that my aunt was leaving because there was like because basically I think what my grandma was hoping was that, because I tended to sleep really, really late in the summer, like noon or later. So she was going to pick me up around noon. So more than likely I would have just slept through when my aunt would have been gone for work. But I woke up early because of that thing. And so I was in the house alone for a couple hours before my cousin randomly came home, and then my grandma came pick me up. But yeah, I knew I had to be in the house by myself for a few hours, and that scared me even worse. But there was nothing I could do. I tried to get my grandma to pick me up early, but she was like, no. But anyway, what my friend caught in her picture, and she took a picture of herself and like her cat. It was like a selfie, I guess, but she was like laying down on her couch and she had her cat like on her chest or something, and this thing was like behind her, It was a solid mass. All you could make out was the head and the shoulders because it was like standing behind the couch. So the couch cut off the rest of whatever it was. It was roughly like maybe 4 feet tall. It's relatively short. And it was like right at the base of the stairs because, I don't know, it's hard to like describe the layout of her living room. But essentially, you know, the living room was in the front of the house. And then the stairwell was like right in between the kitchen and the living room area, and the stairwell went to the attic, which the attic was the most fucked up place in all the house. I really, really bad vibes from the attic. And this thing was like the base of the stairs going up to the attic. So that thing I got a really, really negative vibe from. I don't know why. It had no facial features whatsoever. You couldn't see through it. It was not a shadow. It had mass to it. And there was like no hair. It was almost like if you were to take black construction paper and just trace an outline of a person, like a very generic, like men's room, bathroom type of person, is very unsettling. And considering all the other shit that's happened in her house, again, a lot of negative things, a lot of stress, it didn't make it any better. But those are the 2 accounts that I've had with shadow beings. As far as like most people, when they see shadow beings, it's out of the peripheral vision. It's like out of the corner of their eye. I think a lot of that, and of course there's exceptions, but I think a lot of that is just not hallucinations, but some kind of side effect of, because a lot of times people will be watching TV or something when they're seeing it. And I know even with me, you know, because like I'm looking at a computer screen like all the time, whether it be at work, you know, when I come home, I'm like watching YouTube or playing video games. Like I'm always looking at a screen, and all the like flashing of pictures, because you can't really tell when you're looking at like a screen. But if you, and you know, screens have changed, so I guess it depends on the type of monitor and everything you have. Basically there's like a refresh rate, so it's not really necessarily a constant solid image. It's a very rapid projection, but like, I don't know, it basically can distort your vision and kind of make you see things. So I think some of it is explained by that. Other explanations are paranoia. A lot of times when people see things out of the corner of their eye, they're already on high alert and like freaked out about something. Like maybe they're home alone or late at night or whatever. That to me, I don't know, the peripheral things don't really mean as much to me as the ones where people are seeing them head on. To me, you see something out of the corner of your eye, it's not as, I don't know, it's not as concrete. It's not as, I don't know how to put it, but I'm sure you get what I'm saying. The ironic thing about it is, because I've asked my dad, you know, if he's ever experienced anything paranormal, and he said the only thing that he's experienced is every now and then he'll see, you know, shadow things out of the corner of his eye. My mom's also seen them as well. In her instance, which is really weird, she would see like little shadow cats, which is another common thing, like little shadow cats. I don't know if they have anything to do with the shadow, like people, the you know, the Hat Man. I don't know if they're anywhere in any way related, but they pretty much fit the description of the shadow beings, except they're in the size of cats, and they tend to be a lot quicker. Like they dart around, and they have the characteristics of a cat. It's just they're not there. My mom would see that, and I don't know why I forgot that. My mom's old apartment, she said she would every now and then see I don't know if she ever saw it head on. I'd have to ask her, but she would see like an outline of a person in her, like if she'd be in the living room, she'd see it in the far off bedroom. I remember this now because I had to stay with her for the remainder of my lease. It was like 4 months remaining of my lease because I was having a lot of issues with where I was living. So I asked her if I could come stay with her because I just couldn't deal with it anymore, and she said yes. I remember I was mad at her because she told me this, like that she'd see this thing before we left. Like we were both moving in like 4 months. It's like, why couldn't you have told me that after we had moved out already? Now I have to deal with this and have this in the back of my mind all the time. So I guess she's seen a little bit of something, but I don't remember, like I said, if it was head on or if she'd just see it out of the corner of her eye. But she would see like a ghost cat, and she would see like a ghost, or not ghost, a shadow, like man. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to read the comments. I've been kind of ignoring it because, as you could tell from earlier, if I get distracted, I completely lose my train of thought, and it's hard doing these by myself. That's why I like having another person. It keeps the conversation going where I don't feel like it's so dependent on me to just keep talking. But yeah. Matt asked if I pre-record my shows so I can game for an hour before the question portion of the live stream. This actually is live. This isn't pre-recorded. I only do the pre-recorded ones pretty much when there's another person with me, just because I thought it would be easier, but it's still having issues. I don't know. I want to try to do a couple of ones with just me talking about something where it's pre-recorded, so I have something on the back end in case things like that happen and I don't have to postpone a show, another week or whatever. But whatever I talk about, I want to have a lot of information about, and I want to be, especially if I'm going to do it by myself, like there's a lot of pressure to know a lot, so I kind of don't have moments where I'm not saying anything, or it's not a super short or just nondescript show. So I don't know. But anyway, no, I do game before and after. Like I'll play more games after this, but when I'm doing my pre-recorded shows, I have to have my screen open, because the way I do it is I use screen capture to upload the pre-recorded shows. So if I were playing games, you'd be seeing me play my games and not see my screen broadcasting a pre-recorded show. So no, I don't play video games when I'm doing the Q&A. Plus that would make it really hard for me to like actually answer questions during a Q&A. So yeah, anyway. Very funny though. Now we're talking about Adore ELIQUID. Okay, so not a lot of questions. I just want to make sure there was no real questions over there before I kind of wrap things up. But I don't know. As far as what shadow beings are, like what explains them, like I said before, the one gentleman thinks that they're created by us, by our negative energy. That does seem to be somewhat plausible because, like I said, they seem to show up during like times of high stress or around areas with a lot of negative energy. So it can make sense that they're either created by or drawn to the dark energy or negative energy. It's kind of similar to the whole poltergeist thing, where I'm pretty much convinced that poltergeist activity, which is basically like when things are like moving around, people like to blame it on ghosts. I think that's more of a telekinetic thing, where it's actually people in either adolescence and or high times of stress. It's actually their brain causing things to move slightly, because it actually happened to me. Most of the time it wasn't like directly in front of me, but a couple times it happened. I'm trying to think. There was at least once where it happened right in front of me. But yeah, I'm pretty convinced that that type of activity was caused by me during like my adolescent stages, because after that period of time had elapsed, that type of activity stopped. So to me, that kind of proves in my mind that it's pretty much most of the time blamed on that. But I think that the shadow beings could kind of fall under a similar category, where it's either drawn to or created by negative energy. Other alternatives, because some people think that they are somehow related to extraterrestrials, namely the Greys, because a lot of people have seen shadow beings at the same time that they've either been abducted or seen, gray aliens. I don't know. I mean, obviously I have no definite answers. I guess anything's possible. I think if anything, they could be from the same realm, because I am under the belief that most, if not all, ET are not from distant galaxies. They're actually from alternate dimensions, which I've talked about before. So it would make sense that these shadow beings, because I don't think that they exist entirely in our plane, but that they possibly come from either the same dimension or they've come across each other going in different dimensions. I don't know, but there does seem to be, I mean, in pretty much anything paranormal related, there does seem to be a general theme or connection between pretty much any type of paranormal entity. Like, they all seem to have some kind of common thread to them. What it is, I don't know, but there is something that connects them all together, like some kind of commonality. I don't know. I don't think they have anything to do with like ghosts. I think they're entirely different things. And again, with like the negative ones, I think that's more of like a different thing. I mean, obviously I could be wrong. There could just be like neutral and negative shadow beings. I don't know. But I think the really negative ones that are like holding people down and like choking people and all this other stuff, which again, I haven't really heard too much of that, just mainly from this one lady. I think that's more of something else. I don't really necessarily think it's a shadow person. As far as what their intentions are, I don't know. Again, the one I've seen just tends to observe. It doesn't really do anything. And even the negative one that was caught on camera, it didn't do anything. It was just there. So I don't know. It's odd. Do I think shadow people are attached to a dwelling? I think that's more so ghosts that would be attached to a dwelling. I think, if anything, if a shadow person's attached to anything, which I don't necessarily think that they are, it would be a person as opposed to a place. But that's just me. Or, like I said, if something really traumatic happened, it's possible they could be drawn to there. I don't really know. I don't know if high peaks of stress or depression or anger, like emotional states, can actually alter time or like create some kind of almost beacon, like some kind of, I don't know, it seems to have some kind of effect to where it draws certain things in. I don't know. Or it could have been that place, wherever it's drawn to, already had that distinct characteristic to it, where it's like a thinner veil between dimensions. I don't know. Damn it, go back up. You missed a good chunk of it. This picture was on a flip phone, and I think most of you were around when it was, it was out or whatever. But to date how old this picture was, it was back when Motorola Razrs had just come out. So that's how it was taken. So no, I don't have a copy. I used to at one point. It used to be on a computer, and that computer's come and gone. And no, I don't have the picture. I did send it to, I want to say it was Ghost Hunters before they became popular, or when they were just starting to become popular, because whatever site it was, they offered to analyze it to basically tell you whether or not you caught something legitimate or if it's just some kind of weird, because a lot of weird stuff can happen to cameras. So basically to see how legitimate it was. I never heard back from them, and I don't know for sure who it was, what website it was, but it was a long time ago. I was in high school. I was, I think, a sophomore. It's either a sophomore or junior in high school. So this was a long time ago. I wish I still had the picture. But I just don't. And I don't even talk to the person that had it, and she wouldn't, I know her, she wouldn't have it either. Have I seen a white mass similar to a human? I have this weird thing that happens to me when I sleep or when I'm trying to fall asleep. I haven't really talked about it much because it's really weird and I don't know what it is, but and it happens when I'm going through a lot of rough times sleeping. Like, I pretty much always have a rough time sleeping, but there's certain periods that are really, really bad. And it seems to be during those times where it happens. So I don't know if it's like that micro sleep that people talk about. I really don't think it is, because I'm still completely awake when it's happening. Because I've had periods of micro sleep, which is pretty much you just lose consciousness for a very small amount of time, and then you're like, whoa, where did 10 minutes go or whatever. It's not like that. It's like when I'm falling asleep, and sometimes when I wake up, like right after I wake up, I'll still be kind of in that state where I can see things. Like, it's really weird. But I've actually, I think I talked to Fresh about it, and in the one experience, whatever it is, because like for the longest time it'd only be places, and there would never be people or anything moving in it. It was just like still images of just random places, like inside of a house. A lot of times it was outside. So I don't know what the hell it is. I really don't. But I would see images of just random places. And in this image, I actually saw the inside of an apartment, and there was like an outline of a person, and it was completely white. And it was really weird. It was almost like I said before, where like if you were to take paint, like, you know, the Microsoft Paint, and you were to like trace an outline of a person like running that way, like if you were to just like cut it out of like a white background and then paste it on a real image, that's what it looked like. And it was running towards a similar figure, but it was completely black. And why it was running towards it, I don't know. It was really fucking weird, and it creeped me out. But that's the only thing that I've seen. I've never seen anything like a shadow being, but white in real life. So no, I've never seen anything that looked like an angel or anything like that. Nothing really spiritual in that way. I have seen ghosts, but they weren't anything like a shadow being. It wasn't like the opposite of like a shadow being, if that makes any sense. So whereas the shadow being's all black, I've never seen like the counterpart to that being like all white. Yeah, so I've never seen an orb, like a ghost orb. I don't even know if I completely buy. Like, I think they're a lot rarer than what they come across as, especially when they catch them on camera. Yeah, I've never really lost anyone super close to me. The only people that were somewhat close were my aunt and my uncle, and I still do have a lot of dreams about them. I don't know why. And in my dreams, they're always stuck in their house. Like this one house that was really, really creepy house that they used to live in. And it's close to where my grandma lives now. And in my dreams, they're always stuck there, like as a spirit. And I'm usually the only one that can sense that they're there. And it's almost like they're alive until I'm reminded that they're dead. Like, it doesn't even click with me. So I don't know if it's just that I haven't really truly grasped the fact that they were gone. I don't know if that's the dream's trying to tell me. I don't really know. But it is a reoccurring dream. But as far as like seeing anybody in real life that I've known that's passed, no. Anytime that I've seen an apparition, it was always just like a random person. So I don't know. Otis, yes, I've thought about remote viewing, and to me that's what it sounds like. Because like obviously I've never been able to control, because I guess to control a remote viewing situation, it's very complicated, at least the way that they do it, because supposedly the government does it. Like there's like certain groups that are trained to do it. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know. But the way that they're trained to do it is very, very different. And it's very, I've looked into it and it's like, I can't do it that way. But I wouldn't know how to control it. Because I don't know. It's really fucking weird. That's the thing about my experiences. Because I've had experiences where I've seen things, and I've talked about it before. I don't like to talk about it because it really just sounds nuts. It really does, and I understand that. So I don't like to talk about it too much. But, you know, I've seen, like, I've had precognitive experiences. The problem is it's very uncontrolled as far as, like, me. That's why I don't really believe in psychics per se. But I don't know. It's in my opinion, at least in my experience, it's very inconsistent. So trying to control stuff like that, at least in the state that I'm in now, it's like impossible. So like when I see things, they're just like random things. I don't know what they mean. I don't know if they mean anything. It could just be a side effect of sleep deprivation. I don't know, but it's weird. It's different than a dream. That's all I know. It's weird, and I don't know what it is. But as far as anyone that I've talked to, like in real life, and I don't go into detail about that kind of stuff because again, it sounds nuts. But even like fellow experiencers, like they have never really experienced that before. Like that's not something that they deal with. Like I don't know that I've come across anyone that's exactly had the same thing happen to them. I don't know. It's weird, and I don't understand it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm pretty much done. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna cut a lot of the end parts out, like as far as like, because I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, not silence, but a lot of extra stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be in here. This is why I don't like doing these shows by myself, but I guess sometimes it's just unavoidable. I bought more flavorings. Not that I need them, but I really wanted one particular flavor because I was watching Convicted Vapes. They were doing, or he was doing, Matt was doing a review on this particular e-liquid, and it sounded kind of odd, but like he really liked it, and it's something that's really different that I've never really heard the flavors combined before. So I'm like, I'll try to mix it with what I have. It's a buttered popcorn with strawberry drizzle and a slight hint of yogurt. And I know that probably sounds gross, and it does kind of sound gross, but I don't know, there was still something remotely intriguing to me about it. So I tried to make something similar with what I had. The problem is he said there's a very distinctive like buttered flavor kind of like on the back end, and I don't have anything like that. And I've been meaning to get something like that because there's been a couple of instances where I've needed like a butter type flavor. And I bought buttercream for whatever reason, thinking that it would be a buttery flavor, but it really isn't. It's more of like an icing, like the buttercream icing, which is probably what it's supposed to be, but it's not buttery enough. So I had to buy a butter flavor, and I can't just buy a flavor. I've gone over this. So, you know, I have to buy other flavors. Plus I wanted to get Inaware Cactus because I've been, you know, reading Reddit pretty frequently, and they keep mentioning, like I keep coming across Inaware Cactus mentioned, so I got that. And then I heard Capella has a new flavor called Funnel Cake. I was all over that shit, so I got that. And then I got a few other flavors that looked interesting or that I've been meaning to get, so I'm excited about that. Hello Phenom. Yeah, I'm pretty much all red and white today, with a little bit of black, I guess. But, you know, I got my white headset, red bow. This is a red, I guess it's technically cream colored, but it's pretty much red and whitish. And then my red and white smock. I'm okay, Phenom. I'm a little hot. Yesterday was pretty nice. It was actually a lot cooler than it's been, and then today it's right back up to being like 86 degrees again. It's like, ugh, fucking hate hot weather. But what else did I get from there? I think I got another Inawera flavor. I've been really getting into Inawera lately. Oh, I got TFA elderberry because Paul mentioned elderberry, and I'm like, I don't have that, so I don't even know what elderberry is. That's when you know you have a real problem with DIY flavors and stuff like that. When you buy a flavor and you don't even know what the hell it is or what it's supposed to taste like. I mean, I like berries, but I have no idea what the fucking elderberry is, and I'm pretty sure I've never had it. What else did I get? Oh, I got bubblegum, TFA bubblegum, because the two bubblegums I have, I don't care for. The Lorraine's is decent, but it's really sugary, which is kind of what Lorraine is. Because, I mean, they're candy flavors, so it makes sense. But I try to stay away from flavors that have a lot of sweetener in it, because I hate, because, like, even now, like, my coil, it needs to be burned off. Not super bad. I don't know. I like to keep my wicks and my coils as clean as possible. I don't like dirty, dark wick. I just don't like that shit. No, not dingleberries. That's disgusting. What else did I get? I got 10 flavors, and then I got more of whipped cream, TFA whipped cream, because I can't run out of that shit. Not that I'm close to running out, but I use it so frequently that I just never want to be without it. Oh, I got Lorraine buttered popcorn as well, because I figured if the butter is good, because Fresh recommended Lorraine butter. So I figured if that was good, and since I'm going for a buttered popcorn, maybe the buttered popcorn would be good. Because I know Flavor West makes like a buttered popcorn, but I heard it was disgusting. But I figured it's probably because the butter note's disgusting. So if the butter note is good, then hopefully the Lorraine buttered popcorn will be good. Because otherwise, I'll just be using kettle corn, which is what I used in the original mixture, which the original mixture I made actually was pretty good. It's just there's really not a butter note to it, which is kind of distinctive in the mixture. But yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. But anyway, so I figured the butter popcorn may be good. We'll see. And then I'm just reading the comments. Then I got TFA butter popcorn, which I'm it's like movie theater butter or something like that. Something like that. Which is probably going to be disgusting. But I figure it was like only $1 or something. So I'm like, whatever. So I got it anyway. Can't be worse than chicken and waffles. That's all I know is it cannot be worse. I think that's it. I'm pretty sure that I got a couple other ones, but I can't think of them right now. I have way too many flavors, but whatever. I don't know, Phenom. People seem to really like Omageddon's ravioli thing, which doesn't sound appealing to me, but you never know, I guess. There's a lot of things vaping that I didn't think would be good, and they were. And then there's a lot of more things that I thought would be good, and they're not. So who knows? That's about as far as I know, as far as savory vape flavors that people like. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else. I've been really holding off on getting anything vape related because, you know, I'm going to Pittsburgh this weekend. So just in case, I don't want to like overload myself. And then, not that I need to buy anything at a vape convention. It's not really why I'm going. But I really don't need anything. And I don't know. I've been really trying to not really buy anything except flavors. Flavors are the one thing that I can never seem to stop getting more of, even though I don't need them either. But I don't know. I'm kind of like trying to get to 400, which is like so insane. But they did a thing on Reddit where it was kind of just like a flavor measuring contest, where it was like how many flavors are in your arsenal, like who has the biggest. And mine wasn't the biggest. It definitely was like towards the higher end, but it kind of made me feel a little less weird and like crazy, because there was definitely people that had more than me. I think the highest I saw was 700 and something. But yeah, it didn't make me feel as bad. Yes, Phenom, I've told you that I'm going to Pittsburgh, and then you made fun of me, or not really made fun of me, but you said, well, no one's going to Pittsburgh. But yes, I'm going to Pittsburgh. Mainly because I want to meet Addie Tooney. As far as I know, I don't think really anyone else is going. I think Dear Addie's going. There's a couple people in chat that mentioned they're going. But as far as people like in our group, I don't think anybody else is going. But I didn't really imagine anybody else would be going because it's not really close to a lot of people. Yeah, Addie Tooney. Addie Tooney is the one that asked if I was going. He asked me a couple months ago, like around the time. It was like right before. It was like early June. I want to say early June. But yeah, he's the reason I'm going. I figure if nobody else goes, at least I get to meet him. And then Matt from Suck My Mod's going to be there, but I don't really know him like that. So as far as people that I know, the only people that I really know that are going are Dear Addie, which I don't even really know that well, and then Addie Tooney. So, but it's literally 2 hours away. So, you know, I figured it won't be bad. I mean, even Michigan was like technically about 3.5 hours to Detroit. So if I can do that, I can drive 2 hours. That really isn't that big of a deal. And I'm planning on just going in the morning and then, you know, hanging out and then just driving back. I thought about getting a hotel room out there, but I'm like, why? I know I'm not going to sleep well in a hotel room, and there's really no point. I'd rather just come back home and sleep in my own bed. So, yeah. No, it wasn't when I was switching jobs, because I did that back in March, and I didn't even know the convention was going on. The convention I was talking about back then, I think it was Vegas. People were trying to get me to go to Vegas. That was the one back then. I didn't even know about the Philadelphia one until Addie Tooney brought it up. Like I said, early June. At the earliest, late May. But it was like a couple months. If you're referring to Understudy, I don't know him, and yeah. What do you mean we are a real city? What's a real city? Yeah, I already know about the one in Alabama, which I'm probably not going to. I don't know. Lately, I've been kind of reevaluating a lot of things and trying to figure out what I want to do career-wise. Because, to be honest, not really liking the new job. I've tried to put off giving ultimate opinion until enough time had passed. But I feel like at this point, I've been there, I think, 4 months. I think that's enough time to know whether you like something or not. And I was hoping that it was just because, you know, I wasn't very familiar with the job yet and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's not getting any better. If anything, it's getting worse. And I'm only 4 months in, so I could just imagine. Because even with Time Warner, I liked that job and really didn't start hating it for at least a couple years. Like, there was things I didn't like about it, like, from early on, but it wasn't like I hated it or was really reevaluating things until much later. This, it's just... Plus, I'm a type of person, if I get too comfortable doing something, I'm less apt to try to get out of it. Like, basically, I'll just remain there because it's comfortable. And I don't want to fall into that. So it kind of, see, my predicament is, and like, I think one of my friends told me the same thing. And it's like, I really haven't liked any of my jobs. So it's like, if I were to leave this job and go somewhere else, am I going to like that job any better? I don't know. But at the same time, that's not really a good way to look at it either, because, you know, eventually I might find a job that I actually like or can tolerate anyway. But I don't know. I just, like, I hate dreading to go to work. Like, I don't have to love my job, like, whatever it is that I would do. I just don't want to, like, dread getting up every day, because, like, you're there 9 hours out of a day, sometimes more if you count, like, I guess it's the one good thing about the job is that it's very close, which is kind of another reason why I'm kind of reluctant to look somewhere else, because it's so freaking close. Like, we're talking like 10 minutes away, 10, 15 minutes away. But at the same time, it's just like every single day I work, it's like I'm just counting the minutes until I can leave. And I don't want to spend so much of my life rushing things along. I don't know. And that's another thing about me. The things that I'm passionate about, they're not easy things to make money doing. Like, I really like video games, but that's not really a career. I mean, yes, you can make a career out of it, but it's very limited. You know, I like writing, but again, it's something that's hard to make money doing. You know, I do like vaping, and, you know, I'm interested in vaping and stuff like that. But even if I've thought about working at a vape shop and stuff like that, but I honestly don't think that I'd be able to find anything where I'd make enough money. Like, it'd be something where I'd have to, like, own my own vape shop, which is, again, something people have suggested to me, but it's like, you have to have money to have a business. Like, you can't just start off with, like, nothing. I mean, yeah, maybe you could some way, but I don't know. That's not really something I'm interested in either. What other things? Like, PaRiNormal is very interesting to me. Again, not really something you make money doing. That's why I went to school for computers, because it was like the closest thing that was realistic to where I could make money off of it. Like, do a job making money from, I don't know. Yeah, a juice line is not really a good idea right now. like my thing, and I've said this before, but I kind of want a job where I'm not forced to interact with a lot of people. Like even the job that I have now, which I feel like I was misled as to what the job was, which is part of the reason why I'm so turned off by it, because I was kind of told that it was something completely different than what it really is. And I just I don't like having to deal with a high volume of people. Like that was part of the reason that I left really the last couple of jobs that I've had is well, I guess my last job wasn't as much the people necessarily. It was just the money and stuff. But the job prior to that was just having to deal with people all fucking day, back to back to back to back to back. I'd rather deal with numbers. I'd rather deal with data. I don't like dealing with a whole lot of people. I don't like that shit. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. It's just if I were, I guess I don't work in retail. It's customer service, not traditional customer service. It's focused customer service. It's certain companies, but kind of call center type situations. I don't want to deal with a call center type situation. The one with Time Warner was a call center type situation. You were getting calls all fucking day. They were fellow coworkers, but they were still calls all fucking day. I don't like to be on the phone. I really don't. I fucking hate it. When I'm not working, I'm never on the phone. I don't like that shit. Doing this is as close to a phone type thing as I get. I don't like phone calls. And that's pretty much all I do is answer calls. And it's I don't like that shit. But unfortunately, pretty much 95% of jobs, that might be a bad percentage, but the majority of jobs you're going to be dealing with people, and probably a lot of them. And I don't know. So it's weird. And it's I don't know. And I can't really gauge how they feel about me either, which is odd. And I guess I could ask, but I don't know. It's weird. And I guess it really doesn't matter too much, because I know that, my actual physical, not based on opinion, based on numbers wise, I'm doing well, at my job. But it's otherwise I don't know. It's hard to tell. But they keep throwing me into training classes. I'm every other week I'm learning a different client, which sucks. But it's on the other hand, it's that does make me more valuable as an employee. And that means that they have some level of faith in me, that they keep giving me people to service. But at the same time, it's they keep telling me oh, your training's going to be over soon. You won't have to keep learning so many people. We're going to, start pulling back on that. So you don't have to, because learning every single company, I don't know. I don't want to get, because it's probably, I don't know, I'm probably boring anyway, but not to get too in depth with what I do, but we have we basically do mobile support for companies, corporations. So each company has specific rules, specific guidelines, specific ways that they need to do stuff, specific programs. Everything is different. I don't think there's really any two companies that have the exact same type of format, in how we provide service to them or support for them, or however you want to put it. So it's like every single time I learn a company, I have to learn a completely whole way of doing things and different programs of how to do stuff. And then the information that we're given as like a backup to like be able to troubleshoot for them and stuff like that is pretty poor, honestly. And so you go to try to get support for what you're trying to support them for, and you have no support, especially with me working later shift, which is something that they did warn me about, is that I won't have as much, support there in the evenings for like questions and things like that. But it's like, I feel like I shouldn't need someone to be there all the time to ask a question because it's not in our database. Like, that to me is insane. And a lot of problems that they know are happening, they're doing nothing to correct. And it's just like, I can't stand that. Like, that's like a pet peeve. And I'm sure it's probably everywhere. Like, I'm sure probably every company is like that, where they know that something's wrong and they just don't fix it. But it's like, I'm the one that has to deal with the repercussions for something not working. I'm the one on the phone with them that can't fix their problem because I don't know how to, and there's no way to find out how to fix it. Like, that is so frustrating to me. And because there's specific programs tailored to a corporation, you can't even Google that shit because it's internal. Like, it's an internal private program. So the only one that's going to have information is that company and the people that make that specific program. Like, it's so annoying. But anyway, actually, a funny story about someone said become a shrink. That was my major, like, because I went to college straight out of high school. I didn't end up sticking with it, and then went back a couple years ago. Well, not a couple years ago, about a year ago. My major was psychology, and I was studying to be a psychologist. And then I found out how many years you have to go to school to be a psychologist. And I kind of knew in the beginning, but I guess it really just didn't sink in, like, exactly how long I'd have to be in school. And I was like, fuck that. Well, you came in at a bad time, Phil. Whenever I talk about work, it's pretty much always depressing. I don't know. It's weird. Like, this past week was fine, but then I think it was the week prior to that, I was really depressed. And then the week prior to that, I might have been really depressed too. But then I'll have like a week where I'm fine and really positive about things. And I don't know. It's weird. I've been in a really, really weird place lately, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's about. But, when you're clinically depressed, I'm convinced it's really something that never really completely goes away. So it's going to be something I have to deal with forever. It's just how much of it you let control your life, and I really try to not let it consume me. But there's times, obviously, where it's harder than others, and sometimes, I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm getting into, and that's what I've been thinking about lately. Is just, I don't know, maybe it's a midlife crisis. Am I too young to have a midlife crisis? I mean, I think the average life expectancy for a female is like 65. So technically, I think I would be in a midlife crisis. But I think in general, people think, or midlife crises are later in life. See, this doesn't really say. It says anywhere from 37 to 50. So I guess it's a little bit sooner. But I think everyone's different. And the fact that I'm not married or anything, I think that makes it worse. Not that, like, I want kids or anything, but I don't know. I feel like people that have kids, if they do nothing else, as long as they're a good parent, that's an accomplishment. And when you're single, it's kind of harder to feel accomplished because you don't really have a legacy outside of the one you make for yourself. Like there's a lot more pressure on yourself as opposed to just kind of doing what you need to for your family. I don't know. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever, but I don't know. I guess there's more pressure to be like self-accomplished when you don't have kids. At least in my opinion, that's how I feel. It's weird. Anyway, I think I'm gonna jump off here because this got way off track, which I knew it was going to anyway. I kind of planned it to be off track, to be honest, because I figured I really wouldn't stay on topic for incredibly long because I'm by myself, and I could kind of use the end of the show just to kind of chat like I would any other week. But yeah, I don't want to talk about depressing things, but I kind of wanted everyone, because someone brought up the work situation, not really directly, but just mentioned the new job. And I kind of wanted to let y'all know how that was going, because some people have asked recently, you know, how's the new job going? And I've been reluctant to answer because I kind of wanted to give it time before like I made a final decision on how I liked it or didn't. And I feel like I've been there long enough and dealt with it long enough to make that decision that I kind of just don't like it. The unfortunate thing is I like my coworkers. There's really not any coworkers I have an issue with. And I think the company itself is a good company. They seem actually like I keep forgetting exactly what his title is, but he's like a higher up person. Like he's my boss's boss, I think. He always comes by and says goodbye. He'll ask you how you're doing. Very friendly. You know, they're just very friendly in general. My direct supervisor is very friendly. They seem to genuinely care about people. So it's kind of unfortunate that I don't really like the job itself, which is kind of why I was trying to stick with it, because they do have other positions. It's just I don't know if I could deal with this position long enough to migrate to the other ones, because I feel like to get into the ones that I would actually enjoy, it'd probably be another at least 6 months to a year after I was hired on, because I'm not even hired on yet. I'm still a temp. So, and that can take 6 months to a year. So I just feel like it would take too long. And I'm kind of just sick of being a temp, to be honest. Oh my God. I found out some bullshit. Oh my God. So I had to work July 4th, right? Which I already did not want to fucking work July 4th to begin with. Not that because I had any plans or anything, but it's because if I can have a day off, like, you know, it was a day off, I want a fucking day off. But because I guess too many other people wanted that day off, I was one of the lucky ones that was chosen to work that day. The only thing that made it better about working that day is thinking that I got time and a half. Guess what? I don't have fucking time and a half because I'm a temp. I was so pissed. Somebody, I swear, told me that if you worked a holiday or whatever, you were paid time and a half. They either didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, or I misunderstood them. Because if you do work overtime, you get time and a half. But because it wasn't an extra day, it was like a normal day I would have worked, I didn't get paid any extra. That fucking pissed me off. I was so mad. I was so fucking mad. But I'm just really sick of being a temp. I'd rather just be hired on. I don't like this bullshit. So I don't know. But anyway, I'm gonna go because this is just turned into a bitch fest. And well, it kind of already has, but I'm not really depressed today. I'm just kind of feisty, I guess. I did get some cool things thrifting though, so I'm excited about that. That's probably the highlight of my day outside of playing my video games, was finding some cool stuff at the thrift store. Yeah. So I'm not really depressed today. I have been going through it lately, on and off. But today I'm okay. It's just I'm feisty and I'm just very confused as far as, I don't know, my place in life. I need something, and I'm not really sure what it is. But anyway, I'm going to go. Thank you for watching. Sorry if it was boring or not really very informative. I guess I need to work on like doing these, like finding a way to do it on my own that's better, because I don't know. It's just, it's hard. And I don't want to just stop doing them. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know what to do at this point, but thank you for watching. And if you're going to be in Philadelphia for the vape convention, less than a week from now, I will be there on Saturday, unless something crazy happens. I'm planning on being there Saturday. I'm not coming early because I just don't want to get up early and I don't want to pay extra money. So I'll be there, you know, around 3 when it starts. And yeah, so if you're going to be there, I'll see you there. I'll probably be awkward, so don't feel weird. Like, or if I look bitchy, I kind of like have what's called resting bitch face or dragon lady face, however you want to put it, where I kind of look really bitchy. And that's kind of like a, what do they call that? A protection, like a self-defense type of thing. But if you want to say hi, don't feel weird about doing it. Like, I'm not going to like rip your head off if you say hi or whatever. I'm just really shy and awkward. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to go, and thank you for watching. Bye.